Welcome into another edition of Talkin Ducks. Oregon getting a big-time win over Stanford. They ran the ball all over the Cardinal. However, some penalties to clean up. Up next for the Ducks, a road trip down south to the desert as they take on the much-improved Arizona Wildcats. But let's go ahead and get things started here. It's time now for our opening drive, brought to you by Les Schwab Tire Centers, doing the right thing since 1952. As usual, we've got Joey Harrington, Anthony Newman, and finally back from vacation from the Oregonian, Aaron Fentress.
Hey, before we get started, I heard you guys, several people texted me and called me and said that you guys were just mad talking trash about me, especially Newman and you, Jordan. You're supposed to be my boy. But I heard Joey had my back.
Boy. I'm sorry.
So thank you, Joey. I heard Joey had my back.
Thank you. I'm coming at you hard today.
Joey's my new BFF on the show now.
Well, Aaron, now that you're back, let's go ahead and get to you, my friend. Your thoughts on this Oregon win versus Stanford, because years past, Oregon has always sort of ran into a brick wall in Stanford or gotten tripped up by the Cardinal in the hopes of a great season. But this was a game where Oregon clearly was the much better team than Stanford.
Absolutely. My call on this, I think, was 41-23 or something like that. I just feel like Stanford has not been playing well. 29 of their points against was it Utah and USC came in the fourth quarter when they were already getting blown out. They just don't have the athletes right now. They don't have the same talent they had back when they were formidable in 2010, 11, 12, et cetera. So this is a situation where the more athletic team, the tougher team, I think on every level, just took it to the lesser team. And I kind of expected them to do that, and they fulfilled it in every way imaginable, except for one area, which I'm sure you'll get to.
Yeah, obviously that one area being penalties, because Anthony, 14 penalties for 135 yards. You love to see the win, right? And some big explosive plays, but as a coach, you're sitting there against a team that you're clearly better than, and you're having this many penalties. This has got to be an issue for Lanning and company to obviously correct as they get set for the latter part of their schedule.
Yeah, first of all, Aaron, I don't care about what you said. Okay. Second of all, you know, we talked about this earlier. This is a whole new coaching staff. You know, Dan Lanning, this is the first time being a head coach. So everybody's trying to learn his system. Everybody's trying to understand what he wants, you know, and it builds trust over years. It takes time to build that football team and get it the way Dan Lanning wants. And I know he doesn't want the yellow flag. You can't have that. That's about focus or a lack of focus. You know, understanding and it's not an eye game. It's a team game. You play as a team. And so I think he'll get that worked out. This is his first year. I mean, that's what, 5 games, 6 games? I don't even know how many games. You got to give it some time. The kids will eventually understand, hey, we have to worry about playing for us, and I don't worry about playing for me, because it becomes a personal thing when you get some of those fouls because you're not, or penalties because you're not taking care of business, or you think it's about you, but it's not.
Let me jump in there, Jordan.
Go ahead,
Jordan, yeah. Anthony, I don't think anybody, you know, is accusing Dan Lanning of, you know, coaching penalties, you know, right? No coach says, you know, in their system we want penalties, and obviously there's a grace period, and everybody's trying to figure it out. I think maybe for me, you know, as somebody who has had a realistic idea of what this season could be, right? I was never, you know, I don't think, you know, any of us on the show were saying this is a national championship or bust kind of season. But we have seen over the last couple weeks some really, really good football. Like the type of football team that can go out and not only compete for a conference championship, but could win a conference championship, right? So if that is the mindset, and if that's what this team is going to be, then you can't have false start penalties at home, right? On the road, you know, okay, it happens every once in a while. You can't have, you know, those brain fart, you know, type penalties, the unsportsmanlike penalties, the ones where, like you just said, like where the I becomes more than the me becomes more than the team, right? And that's what we saw a little bit in that first half. It didn't bite them against Stanford, but when they start playing better teams, when they start playing Washington, when they start playing Utah, Oregon State, all teams that have looked very, very good, not only at times this year, but, you know, Utah for the entire season, those things are going to bite them, right? So I think, like you said, this is a new staff. Everybody gives them a grace period, but you have to clean those things up. And if they, again, it's like the conversation, you know, we had about Bo Nix. If Bo doesn't do, then this will probably happen. Bo did. Bo cleaned up. Bo's been tremendous. The offense has responded accordingly. I think it's fair to say that if those things, penalties, false starts at home, mental lapses don't get cleaned up, then it could put them at risk for some of these games down the road. But I don't think this is a systemic problem. It's just something that needs to be addressed.
Yeah, and Aaron, we see this from time to time, right? Great teams that go out and have questionable games. I mean, even Georgia, the number 1 ranked team in the nation, has a very close first half where they're trailing Missouri. And for Oregon, it does feel like they're getting better week after week, but I think Joey said it perfectly, and I think this is why this season's going to be so exciting. They're playing like a 13th ranked team where you have the talent and the capability to beat anybody, but this is one of those seasons, Aaron, where Oregon has to play an A-like game to beat some of the better teams in the conference, and that means they need to be sharp in every single aspect of these games if they want to try and pursue and reach the pinnacle of what they think they can get to this year.
100%. And what we've always done on this show is I guess I always look at
There's no I. Come on, get out of the I mindset.
Look at the little things that could derail the team, because for so many years we were covering a team that was trying to win a national title, and I think we all agree that based on what we've seen, this team has a chance to win the conference, because there's really not a team in the conference that isn't flawed. So then you want to check out the flaws of Oregon and see, well, what could derail them. I think so far, other than the Georgia game, which Missouri did a good job against them, but other than that, you bludgeoned the team you're supposed to bludgeon in Eastern Washington. You beat a ranked team at home,
BYU.
albeit they were missing a couple guys, and then you went on the road and you won a close game facing some adversity, and now you came home against a team that's not on your level, and you took care of them easily. So they've done, I think, everything you would want to see them do, except those penalties are a little scary because, like Joey said, when you get into a game against Utah or UCLA even, which looks really good right now, if you're getting 10 penalties, like right now they're last in the conference in penalties per game and penalty yards per game. If you hurt 3 or 4 drives in a game like that, or assist 2 or 3 drives to the other team in a game like that, you're going to lose, because this is not a team that's dropping 50, 60 on a given night like the Mariota teams. It's still a team that offensively looks good, but it's not just world-beating dominant where you can overcome all of that. So, yeah, they have to clean that up, or, yeah, it'll hurt. No doubt.
Anthony, I know you're Mr. Positive, and I kind of led you with a question to be negative and harp on the penalties, but what's one thing you saw from Saturday night, late Saturday night, by the way, no more 8 p.m. kickoffs, please, that you really liked about Oregon's win against Stanford?
It was a team victory. I mean, the offense played well, the defense played well, and special teams played well, and it was a well-coached game. I still go back to the offensive line of Oregon right now. That offensive line is unreal. I mean, they said they gave up 1 sack or half a sack, whatever that was. I don't know. But that offensive line is just, man, they are a beast. And they're fun to watch because they take care of the run, they create running holes, and they give Bo Nix time to throw the football. So it was a good game to watch. And again, they took care of Stanford. We thought Stanford might be a little bit of a challenge coming to Autzen Stadium. You know the history of that, but it wasn't.
Well, Oregon gets the win against Stanford. When we come back on Talkin Ducks, we'll take a closer look at Bo Nix. Listen, he is playing better and better week after week, and we will talk more about his ceiling and also what he needs to do against Arizona on the road. Don't go anywhere. We're just getting started on this edition of Talkin Ducks.
This is Abby and Bob. In 1964, these two high school pals started it all. Almost 60 years later, we still keep our word to the people of the Pacific Northwest to make the best pizza with the freshest ingredients. And that's a promise we will always keep.
Par Lumber is committed to providing the best customer service. We provide personal service. We're problem solvers. We're positive and courteous. We're competent and professional. We are committed to delivering exceptional service every time. We're appreciative and we care. We are Par Lumber.
The road can be a crazy place. Uh-oh! That's why Les Schwab Tires fixes brakes, steering, and more. And those guys don't. Keep driving. I'm just glad Les Schwab puts my safety first, so I can backseat drive with confidence.
Hit the road safely with Les Schwab and save up to $200 when you buy select tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires, celebrating 70 years of doing the right thing.
At Par, we're more than just lumber, because we know people want more than just lumber. That's why we sell grills, sealers, stains, wheelbarrows, rags, bags, extension cords, shop lights, saws, blades, ladders, and, oh yeah, Yeti coolers and Yeti thermoses.
Building a deck? Par Lumber has a wide variety of composite and wood decking products in stock. Stop by and let our knowledgeable staff help you choose the perfect decking material for your project.
Abby's loves the Pacific Northwest so much, we named one of our favorite pizzas after it, the P&W Chicken Pizza, featuring loads of chicken, onion, country bacon, and Canadian bacon piled to the edge. Family-owned Abby's, a legendary pizza tradition.
Welcome back to Talkin Ducks. It's time for some excellence on the field presented by Ferguson Wellman. Ferguson Wellman taking a disciplined approach to investing. As always, we appreciate all of our sponsors, especially Ferguson Wellman, joining us here this second season. And for Oregon, they're very happy, Joey, that Bo Nix is joining them for his first season with the Ducks here. And you look at a very forgettable first game. It's a huge stage. It's against Georgia. This is just a very difficult situation for any quarterback. Then the next 4 games after that, Bo Nix has really started to improve. And so you've been in that situation before where you have a bad game, and how do you bounce back with a lot of season left? What have you learned about Bo Nix as a player and as a person now that we're 5 games into this season and he's helped the Ducks win 4 in a row?
I think the thing that I've learned most about Bo, and I think been most impressed with, is his ability to correct a mistake, right? He came out in that first game, national stage, a team he'd played a bunch of times, probably tried to do too much. Made a couple decisions that frankly hurt the team. Balls that he shouldn't have thrown, a read that he shouldn't have made. And it was visible. It was talked about. Right? They were very public. I think what he's done is he's taken that criticism and he's made the adjustments. Like that's the thing that great quarterbacks do is they push the envelope, see how far they can push it. They make a mistake and then they say, okay, here's what I learned from it. We haven't seen, and granted, I'll be honest, I fell asleep partway into the third quarter on Saturday. So I didn't see everything, right?
That's messed up.
But I can't think of a poor decision that Bo has made since. Now, sure, are there times when maybe he could have thrown it to one guy, instead of another? Yeah, like your progression is different than a decision, right? And Bo's decision making from the moment that Georgia game was over has been so spot on, has been so, it's something you can rally around. It's something you can hang your hat on, right? It's when your quarterback is making great decisions, and that doesn't mean scoring touchdowns all the time, right? Sometimes the right decision is to not push the ball, to not force it. But when your quarterback is making good decisions, it gives your team an opportunity to win games. And that is what he has done. He's been the leader. He's been the leader of a young group of skill position players. He's been that rock that, we saw what happens when quarterback makes bad decisions in game 1. Everything goes to hell. Since then, he's been the rock for that team. And it's so great to see him, number one, as a person having that kind of success after the situation he left in Auburn, but 2, just as a player this year, being able to make the mistake, learn from it, adjust accordingly, and now the guy's on a track to have a pretty fantastic season, not only personally but with his team as well.
Joey, I think there's a better speech than the speech his best man gave at his wedding, I think. So thank you for that, for Bo Nix.
Really?
Appreciate that. We got to clip that and save that for him if he's ever feeling down someday. But Aaron, what I love about Bo Nix, the kid's as tough as footballs, man. And you look at a tough opening coming in and Duck fans thinking, oh, is this really what we signed up for from Auburn? And every single time it seems like he might have a mistake. He is just consistent. Joey said the word rock, and he's no nonsense. He comes, he shows up. You don't see all this flash and flare about me. He has really turned into, Aaron, exactly what Oregon was looking for, the quarterback position, as far as a transfer to come in. And I'm curious from you, how good do you think he can be this season? Because we all saw the quarterback rankings in the Pac-12. He wasn't really listed in the top 5 or 6 non-conference and coming in, but he's playing like one of the best quarterbacks in the conference, in my opinion.
I mean, he's an adult. He's a grown man. One of the things that Anthony Brown gave you last year, despite his faults, was he gave you a grown man who was going to take charge, do the right things, play within himself. and that just gave them a better chance to win than Ty. And now this year, for all Ty's talent, Bo Nix is an adult, right? He's been there, done that. He's got clearly has complete control. Like, I've gone from, okay, what's Bo Nix going to do? Who is this guy now in his 4th year versus what we saw in Auburn, because he was not that impressive in Auburn, to now feeling like, okay, when's he going to drop back and throw another dart to somebody? Just get to it. Can we just? I would say the only thing I saw in the Stanford game is he had a couple of deep balls that could have been picked that were kind of forced a little bit, because maybe he was falling a little too in love with going deep to Franklin or whomever. But other than that, he's in complete control. He's giving you yards on the ground too. He's 12th in the conference in rushing at 55 yards per game, something like that. He had 140 in this game. So he's not only making the right reads and making the right throws, but when nothing's there, he scoots, he gets yards, he's smart about getting down. I mean, he's the complete package right now. So I'd say sky's the limit, although I'm going to say the USC kid is still the best quarterback in the conference.
Oh, sure.
Lord's pretty good. But yeah. Nix to me right now is making me believe that QB is not going to be the problem should they not win the conference.
I completely agree with you. So, Anthony, as they get set to take on Arizona, we saw what Nix did with his legs against Stanford. 6 rushes for 141 yards and 2 touchdowns. This is an Arizona Wildcats defense that gives up over 210 yards on the ground per game. Pretty easy question. How does Bo Nix attack the Wildcats this week?
Well, I think we talked about this earlier. You know, Bo Nix doesn't have to do everything. He's not Superman. He has a supporting cast. And right now, there's a supporting cast of an offensive lineman and a very good running back in Bucky Irving. I mean, I know we're talking about Bo Nix right now, but just keep watching this number 0. He is a dude, but that helps Bo. You know, that helps when you have a great running game, and Joey knows this. You can do different things in the passing game, play action. If there's trouble for the quarterback, he can scramble, and that's the hardest thing for a defense to deal with, is a quarterback that can run a little bit. Because Bo Nix, when I see him scramble, he's scrambling to throw, and then all of a sudden he go, hey, I'll just take this and get what I can and get out of bounds and not take some shots. So he's a nightmare to defend, but then you got to deal with the running game. So when you go into the game as a defense, who are you looking to stop? The running game or Bo Nix? That's the problem.
Yeah, that'll certainly be the problem that Arizona is trying to solve as Oregon gets set to take them on Saturday. But when we come back on Talkin Ducks, closer look at the Oregon defense. Dan Lanning, defensive guru, coming in. What have we learned after 5 games? We'll let you know when we come back on Talkin Ducks.
This is Abby and Bob. In 1964, these 2 high school pals started it all. Almost 60 years later, we still keep our word to the people of the Pacific Northwest to make the best pizza with the freshest ingredients. And that's a promise we will always keep.
Par Lumber is committed to providing the best customer service. We provide personal service. We're problem solvers. We're positive and courteous. We're competent and professional. We are committed to delivering exceptional service every time. We're appreciative and we care. We are Par Lumber.
The road can be a crazy place. Uh-oh! That's why Les Schwab Tires fixes brakes, steering, and more. And those guys don't. Keep driving. I'm just glad Les Schwab puts my safety first, so I can backseat drive with confidence.
Hit the road safely with Les Schwab and save up to $200 when you buy select tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires, celebrating 70 years of doing the right thing.
At Par, we're more than just lumber, because we know people want more than just lumber. That's why we sell grills, sealers, stains, wheelbarrows, rags, bags, extension cords, shop lights, saws, blades, ladders, and, oh yeah, Yeti coolers and Yeti thermoses.
Building a deck? Par Lumber has a wide variety of composite and wood decking products in stock. Stop by and let our knowledgeable staff help you choose the perfect decking material for your project.
Abby's loves the Pacific Northwest so much, we named one of our favorite pizzas after it, the P&W Chicken Pizza, featuring loads of chicken, onion, country bacon, and Canadian bacon piled to the edge. Family-owned Abby's, a legendary pizza tradition.
Welcome back to Talkin Ducks. The Oregon defense helping Oregon obviously get that win against Stanford. And Anthony, it's 5 games now, and it's a pretty good sample size. What have we seen from this Oregon defense? Is there an area within this unit that you feel might be a potential weakness, or is this a pretty balanced defense as we start to get set for the meat of conference play?
They're getting better. That's my famous
I was wondering
words.
when we were going to get that.
My famous words. They're getting better. I mean, we had a question at the beginning of the year with the defensive line not showing up, not putting pressure on the quarterback, not stopping the run. Brandon Dorlus is a dude. He's the guy that's playing on the other side of the ball, which is great. And then we had DJ Johnson, who was suspended for the first half, but he came in and was creating havoc in the second half. And let me highlight a guy, Bennett Williams. He's the new Javon Holland. He's the guy that's playing a little bit of everything. He can play safety, outside linebacker, he can cover receiver, tight end. He makes great tackles in space. I mean, if you watch this kid, he's a technician. So he's the highlight in the back end. And then when you look at the linebackers, Noah Sewell is showing up now. He's starting to get involved. He's starting to be that sideline to sideline linebacker, and that's what we needed. We're still missing Justin Flo. I think he was hurt again, and that's a loss, for a guy like Justin Flo and how he can play. But Noah Sewell is playing lights out now.
Can I come in and I'm going to ask a question here, Jordan. Sorry, I'm taking your job. And,
No,
and
you
it's
go
kinda
ahead,
something that
please.
I've been,
What do you need me here for?
No, exactly. It's something I've
tee
been
you
thinking
guys
of.
up.
Like, Oregon statistically is not, if you look at the stats, they're not doing very well on defense. But then I try and reconcile that with, 31-3 at halftime against Stanford, and they had the big lead against BYU at half. Yeah, they gave up some yards to Washington State. Like, are teams just gaining a bunch of yards in the second half after people come in? Where is this? Because over the last couple games, I've seen a defense, with the exception against Washington State, that has played fairly well, but statistically it doesn't quite mesh up. What maybe, asking Jordan or asking Anthony and yes, Aaron as well, where's the disconnect for me?
They're giving up passing yards. Washington State put up 375, and even
Right.
Jaron Hall for BYU in that game, although Oregon handled him, he threw for 305. So there's some yards coming up there. And if you're scoring a lot and you're running a no-huddle offense, you're going to put your defense out there a lot, so you're going to give up yards. I mean, I think the national title game team, 2014 team, I think they ranked 85th in yards allowed per game, but most of those yards came after Mariota was in the shower, right? So it just didn't really matter. So that's what I feel about. Like, the defense is pretty solid, but they will give up some yards here and there, and to teams who are scoring and driving late in games.
Let me add to that, and I had one coach always tell us, I had him for 8 years, yards don't beat you, points do. Because teams can drive up and down the field all they want. If they don't score, they don't win. And this game is made for the offense to move the football. They can score, get some yards. So that's going to happen. And it's tough when you jump out and you beat a team. You're beating a team at halftime, 35-6, and then you start to let up a little bit. Maybe new guys come in and start playing some younger guys, and you're giving up some stuff. So now the stats are skewed.
Different schemes too, right?
What's that?
Aren't you calling different defense too when you're up by that much?
You're trying different things. You're trying different combinations. But the defense is solid. And here's what I look at when I look at this defense. Did they get better from the beginning of the year? Are they improving? That's what I'm looking at. Now, yeah, they may give up some points. They may give up a touchdown here or there. But are these guys individually, the linebackers, the D linemen, the DBs, are they getting better over time? Because it counts when you start getting towards the end of the season how well you're playing at that time.
And so looking at this defense here, Joey, they've got a test against Arizona. Jaden DeLora transfers from Washington State. He's been throwing for a bunch of yards over the last couple of games, has really rejuvenated this Arizona offense. What's the challenge in defending him for this Oregon defense that we just talked about can give up some yards through the air?
Yeah, and I think that's, it's an interesting point that both Anthony and Aaron made, is understanding that Oregon is going to surrender passing yards. Like, that's what has happened. Anthony, you said it, the game is devised now for offenses to have success through the air. The key is not to allow them to get in the end zone, to do what Washington State did to Oregon in their first 4 drives, right? Three field goals and a pick 6, right? Giving up all sorts of yards, but not allowing them to get in the end zone. That's going to be the key for Oregon. And you guys are right. Like, now that I think about it, correct me if I'm wrong, I think Oregon is second in the Pac-12 in rushing defense, holding opponents under 100 yards per game on the ground. Like, that's the type of stuff that can be that solid That's the type of stuff that gets people off the field, right? You go pass, third and 2, 3rd and 1. What gets you off the field? Is a bow your net kind of stop by that defensive line when they try and run the ball, and now you put your offense back out there. So yeah, that's going to be the key, is to understand that Jayden de Laura is going to throw the football. And he's second in the conference, chucking the ball all over the field. They're going to get their yards. You have to keep them out of the end zone. And then when you have those 3rd and short situations, you got to bow your back, make a stop them from running the football on those downs that can sustain drives. And that's the type of stuff that becomes demoralizing for teams like Arizona.
And Aaron, with the Wildcats, they also boast one of the best wide receiver tandems in the conference. These guys have been going nuts to start this conference so far. What have you seen from them?
First of all, Joey's correct. Second in yards allowed per game. Second fewest, 96 per game.
Thank
Good job,
you,
Joey.
Encyclopedia, Brother Tanica.
It's you. But yes, listen, Arizona's going to pass for some yards this week. Well, I don't think they're going to win, but even if they're getting blown out, they're throwing for 400 because de Laura is legit. He's got a couple cats at wide receiver. One in Cowing, who's leading the conference in yards per game, total yards receiving, touchdowns with 7, 558 receiving. I mean, he's just killing it. He had, I think, 160 the other day against Colorado. And then the other kid is Dorian Singer, who's 3rd in the conference in yards per game. Those two guys are going to make plays. They're going to throw the ball all over the place because they're not the greatest running team in the world. And they're going to be behind because I just don't see how they're going to stop Oregon at all. So they're going to give up yards this week. So Duck fans, don't freak out, right? Don't get all upset with de Laura throws for 380 and 3 touchdowns because they're still going to win 55 to 30 or whatever. So, but they're going to be tested this week no doubt they're going to be tested this week. And like I said, BYU put up yards. Washington State put up yards. So good passing teams have had success, but at the end of the day, did you win? That's all that matters.
All right, stick around. When we come back, we'll talk more about this Oregon offense. Bucky Irving, Chase Cota showing out in that win against Stanford. Don't go anywhere. You're watching Talkin Ducks.
Abby's loves the Pacific Northwest so much. We named one of our favorite pizzas after it, the P&W Chicken Pizza, featuring loads of chicken, onion, country bacon, and Canadian bacon piled to the edge. Family-owned Abby's, a legendary pizza tradition.
The road can be a crazy place. Uh-oh. That's why Les Schwab Tires fixes brakes, steering, and more. And those guys don't. Keep driving. I'm just glad Les Schwab puts my safety first, so I can backseat drive with confidence.
Hit the road safely with Les Schwab and save up to $200 when you buy select tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires, celebrating 70 years of doing the right thing.
This is Abby and Bob. In 1964, these two high school pals started it all. Almost 60 years later, we still keep our word to the people of the Pacific Northwest to make the best pizza with the freshest ingredients. And that's a promise we will always keep.
Welcome back to Talkin Ducks. Oregon, as we mentioned, getting the win over Stanford. Their sights are set on a matchup against Arizona on the road in the desert. Crazy things always seem to happen down south. But fortunately for Oregon, they are really starting to develop some talent at running back. And Anthony, you love Bucky Irving and what we've seen from him over the last couple of weeks.
And I keep saying this. I mean, I apologize. I was before the year, and I know, Aaron, we talked about this, that, Byron Cardwell was the guy that we saw from last year and what he can do. And we didn't watch the new guys. So, when coaches have practice, they talk about, well, we know what's going on. We understand our situation here because us fans and us ex-players, we're not at the practice. We're not behind the closed doors in meeting rooms knowing what's going on. This kid is a dude. I mean, this young man can, and he's only a sophomore. He can run. And what I like about his running ability, great vision, setting up blocks all the time. And then he does the stuff that most running backs don't like to do, pass protection. Oh, he'll catch a ball out of the backfield, or he'll get up the field as a receiver and catch the football. He's an all-around back, and man, he's going to be fun to watch for the next couple of years.
And so then also, Aaron, you look at Chase Cota finally getting a chance to get a few more passes thrown his way. He gets a touchdown, and he's someone who I feel like can really be that third down option for Oregon. I think he runs some really nice routes across the middle of the field. But for you, I mean, between Franklin and Cota, what are we starting to see from this receiving corps as more of these guys get some time and consistency with Bo Nix?
I had flashbacks to Jeffrey Mail on that tunnel screen he took to the house. It was like, I mean, they wear the same number, right? And the speed just, I was like, whoa, where'd that come from? But he has a great stride to him. You know, I thought it was I think we all thought it was a great pickup because he just gave you a veteran guy to sort of help, maybe, I don't want to be too cliche, but sort of be a glue guy for the young receivers, someone that they can bounce off of, they can learn from, because the group of guys they have, led by Franklin, they're more explosive and maybe more talented all around, but they were so inexperienced. So I think it's cool, though, just to see Cota have success at Oregon after toiling a little bit at UCLA. A lot of people hoped he was going to come to Oregon in the first place because he has family who played at Oregon and it didn't work out. He made his choice. That's great. But I think it's nice just having a Cota there at Austin Stadium making plays. And, you know, he's also, there's not a ton of catches. He only had 2 this past week, but he just seems to be right place, right time, making smart plays and converting first downs. And in this case, man, he took a tunnel screen to the house.
So, Joey, we know that Bo Nix can throw the ball. We know that he can run. We've seen Oregon show a little bit of balance on both sides at times, but they ran wild against Stanford. We mentioned the stat against Arizona. They're giving up over 210 yards on the ground. As an offensive coordinator, when you see how well you've ran the ball against Stanford, you see the issue that's at hand for Arizona, how do you then change things? I know it seems like a pretty basic question, but take us through that process as far as how you shift your game plan for that.
I don't know that you need to shift your game plan. I mean, that's the thing is what Bo Nix has done in terms of decision making over the last 4 games has allowed the offense the freedom to not have to focus on one thing, right? You don't say, well, we're not throwing the ball well, and so we have to run the ball. And we don't say, well, he's not making good decisions in the run game, so we got to push the ball down the field. What Oregon is able to do now is truly use a variety of different people, whether it's Irving, whether it's Whittington, whether it's Bo Nix running the ball, whether it's Dollars, whether it's Franklin or Ferguson or Cota, and every one of them seems to have a little bit of a different role. Like one's, you know, your every down back, your change up out of your backfield, your numbers buster when the quarterback is running, your tight end over the middle, your deep threat to Franklin, your hit a screen and bust a guy to Cota. I don't know that you need to come up with anything special or really go outside the box of what you've been doing until somebody shows that they can stop it. Because what Oregon is doing right now is just playing great offense, right? And there's no need to go back to the table and say, oh, I got to do something different, especially when Bo is playing this way. Because he allows you to use all the pieces that you have. And right now, you got a lot of pieces that are developing. I just let them keep developing. Just follow the flow. Just take just ride the river of offense. Just see where it takes you. Sometimes it's just kind of better to, is it going to be Mo Morris or maybe it's Ontario today? Hey, I'll flip it over to Keenan. Let's see what happens. Justin Peel,
with, right?
You take
your
one.
Teammates. All right, well, it'll certainly be a lot of fun for Oregon as they take on Arizona, especially if they can run the ball the way that they have over the last couple of weeks. All right, don't go anywhere. When we come back, another wild weekend in the Pac-12, including UCLA making a huge statement victory over the Huskies. We'll break it down when we come back on Talkin Ducks.
This is Abby and Bob. In 1964, these 2 high school pals started it all. Almost 60 years later, we still keep our word to the people of the Pacific Northwest to make the best pizza with the freshest ingredients. And that's a promise we will always keep.
Par Lumber is committed to providing the best customer service. We provide personal service. We're problem solvers. We're positive and courteous. We're competent and professional. We are committed to delivering exceptional service every time. We're appreciative and we care. We are Par Lumber.
The road can be a crazy place. Uh-oh! That's why Les Schwab Tires fixes brakes, steering, and more. And those guys don't. Keep driving. I'm just glad Les Schwab puts my safety first, so I can backseat drive with confidence.
Hit the road safely with Les Schwab and save up to $200 when you buy select tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires, celebrating 70 years of doing the right thing.
Abby's loves the Pacific Northwest so much, we named one of our favorite pizzas after it, the P&W Chicken Pizza, featuring loads of chicken, onion, country bacon, and Canadian bacon piled to the edge. Family-owned Abby's, a legendary pizza tradition.
Welcome back to Talkin Ducks. Time now for What's Cooking, brought to you by Sam's Northwest Barbecue, located in Sherwood, just south of Portland. Your source for Yoder Smoker barbecue products in the Pacific Northwest and much more. And obviously would love to throw a couple of briskets on one of those Yoder Smokers right now. So big shout out to Sam's Northwest Barbecue for joining us. But you talk about teams that are cooking right now, Aaron, and how about UCLA, undefeated and a very surprising win over Washington? I turned on that game about halfway through and thought, these dudes are dominating the Huskies. What do you make about Chip Kelly and the Bruins, who have just gotten 5-0? It feels like they've had 5 home games, and maybe, well, we won't talk about the attendance at the Rose Bowl right now, but what do you make about the Bruins so far?
There's more people on this panel than were at the Rose Bowl.
You said it. I didn't say it. Let the record show I said nothing about that at all.
Hey, here's what I'm going to say about this. Uh-oh. Chip Kelly's got it rolling. It took a little while, but he has it rolling. Now, his schedule before Washington was soft. The best team he played was Colorado, probably because they're a Power 5 school. So you kind of wondered about that, but they took it to the Huskies. I mean, they were up big. They held on. They dominated. Yes, they gave up a bunch of yards, which sometimes happens when you score a lot of points. But Chip Kelly right now has an offense that's rushing for over 200 yards per game. He has a very efficient quarterback in Thompson Robinson, who's at 11 touchdowns, 1 pick, and a 171 passer rating. Does this all sound familiar? This sounds like Chip Kelly offense.
It brings back some memories.
But what doesn't sound familiar is almost losing to South Alabama.
Right.
Like,
that's, well,
you don't
like
have
I said,
to like that's still that's like.
I agree.
Really?
I agree. That's why I said their schedule was kind of weak, but this is a huge win. Now, I'm not saying they're the best team. I'm not saying they're going to win the conference. I'm just saying that offensively, Chip has it rolling right now, and that's going to make them scary every single Saturday. But the defense is an issue.
It was interesting because Washington's win against Michigan State is what catapulted them into the top 20, but then you've seen what's happened to Michigan State since then, so maybe that game was a little bit more fool's gold. But Anthony, USC wins, Utah wins. Who's the best team in the conference at this point? I mean, obviously, USC is undefeated. Utah and Oregon have week 1 opening losses on the road against SEC schools. So who would you put in this pecking order of your top 3 teams in the conference right now?
Well, this is not in order, but just
Come on, put them in order, Anthony. Put them in order.
Tried to bait you.
Put them in order. Where they go?
Diplomatic Anthony Newman.
I'm not going to put them in order, but the top 3 teams, Oregon, Utah, and USC, those in the conference. USC, the lack of defense hurts them. Yeah, they can score some points, and yeah, they have some dudes on offense. I think overall, Utah is the solid team that plays well in all positions, in all groups, offense, defense, special teams, well coached. It's hard to beat them there in Utah. They go on the road and play well. And then, I'm looking at Oregon. I mean, right now, to defend Oregon, you better bring your lunch. You got to figure out how to stop Bo Nix and that offense. So it's, those three teams, Washington, they showed me something that, hey, maybe they're not that good. UCLA, I don't trust their schedule. I don't think they've been battle tested yet. So that's why I have Oregon, Utah, and USC on the top, but not in order. I'm not saying that's
Yeah, we know you won't rank or put anything in order unless it's Oregon on top.
Yeah.
Can we get a bring your lunch sponsor?
Dr. Harrington, if you could diagnose one issue with this Oregon football team that needs to be corrected for them to be considered the best team in the conference, what do you think is issue number one that's pressing for Oregon at this point?
Well, issue number one is how often you interrupt Mr. Fentress when he's trying to make a very eloquent
Go ahead,
point.
Aaron.
Proceed,
My fault.
Mr.
I just had a
Fentress.
question on the mind.
Oh, no,
I had
I
to
was
get
just
to it. I'm
saying that
looking
we
at the clock as well.
need to bring your lunch sponsor.
A bring-
Take all the
I'll let
times
you
he
work on
said
that,
that to a
Aaron. I
bunch
will
of
let you work
different
on that.
restaurants and say, hey, you want to sponsor the Bring Your Lunch Anthony Newman segment? That's all I'm saying.
Could have been an email, Aaron. Thank you. But go ahead, Joey. Issue number one for Oregon.
Issue number one. Consistency. I think that's because if you look at what Oregon potentially has in place, right? They have a quarterback making great decisions, a running game that has 3, 4, 5 guys averaging over 5 yards a carry, an offensive line that's only given up 1 sack, which Bo Nix tripped, and it technically counts as a sack. Defensively, Anthony, you keep saying it. Dorless and DJ inside are playing so well. Sewell, the secondary is playing well. Like, the thing that has been Oregon's issue has been the inconsistency or just the lack of anything at the start of the year and the penalties in their last game, right? You get rid of those things. I understand what I'm saying. You get rid of the game against Georgia. But point being is, like, they've played some really good football. So if you can continue to do that, they almost become a team like Utah that is just extremely well coached, solid in all areas. Like, I'm really looking at that game in November against Utah as one that could be deciding this conference championship.
Yeah, certainly going to be a great one indeed. All right, when we come back, we'll take a closer look at the Wildcats. Do they pose a threat to the Ducks, or will they be a bunch of kitty cats in Tucson? We'll let you know when we come back on Talkin Ducks. Welcome back to Talkin Ducks. Here's Dan Lanning on the upcoming matchup against Arizona.
I think they have some of the best talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball for them. Coach Fish does a really good job of mixing up looks, but they have really talented wideouts. Their quarterback's playing at a really high level right now, so they present a unique challenge for us, and we're excited to get down to Tucson and attack them.
Well said, Coach. Time now for our legendary moment brought to you by Abby's Legendary Pizza. And how about the double overtime thriller on the road in Tucson? Jeremiah Masoli and company. Huge win for Oregon that year. One of those games that will always go down. It was a back and forth affair. Ducks almost looked like they were out of it, but they get the big victory against an Arizona team that thought they were smelling an upset. So, Aaron, you get set now for Oregon heading back down to Tucson here in October. And you take a look at things like the Heat and Oregon playing against a very hungry, much more improved Arizona team just as far as their mindset. This is a team that believes they can win every game. They're coming off an impressive victory against Colorado. What have you learned about this 3-2 Wildcat team so far?
Well, it's just that Coach Jed Fish has just brought life back to the program. They were 1-11 last year, 0-5 the previous year during the COVID season. And they not only were they 1-16 combined, but they just looked off on their offense. So it's just like, but now they're putting up numbers. So at the very least, if you're an Arizona fan, even though you're not thinking about winning titles, or they might even win more than 6 games, which would be a great accomplishment for them. They're exciting. They're fun. They're throwing the ball all over the place. They're making plays, and that makes them a threat. I mean, if you can put up yards in the passing game and put up points, and this is a night game, strange things happen in the Pac-12. We know it makes them a threat. So it's good to see. I always like it when I see programs that are really down on their luck, like Oregon State was for so long. You see someone come in there and just pump their IVs full of whatever it is they're giving, pump their veins with IVs filled with energy juice. So I'm just making up stuff now. And all of a sudden, boom, they're back and they're exciting and fun. So good to see. Can we edit that?
Don't ever let me ask you a medical question ever again. I'll just keep that in mind, okay? Keep this man as far away from an operating table as possible.
The student section had some energy juice.
Joey,
I had cliches and metaphors just going all over the place on that one.
Joey, you talked about Jaden DeLora real quick, but what does he offer at the quarterback position for Arizona? I mean, what did they really upgrade and get when he made the transfer from Washington State?
They got experience. They got someone who's going to be aggressive, right? I mean, let's not forget that Jaden DeLora played as a freshman at Washington State, right? This is a guy who, if I'm not mistaken, again, help me out here, Aaron, I think he was second last year to Anthony Brown, actually, in passing yards in the conference last year. But it's a guy who will chuck it. Like, this is a guy who will throw the football. In order to play as a freshman, you have to have a confidence. You have to have something about you that says, like, I'm going to get in there. Nobody's going to be better than me. I believe I belong here. And that's what he brings. And maybe that's what, part of what has been the resurgence of this program is this idea that they belong. And consequently, when you chuck it like he does, you're going to make some mistakes. He's turned the ball over a few times, a few interceptions this year. But, that's what he brings is experience, is a confidence, and a feeling that they belong with everybody on the field.
Yeah, last year, second, 2,800 yards, but 9 picks with 23 touchdowns. So he does have interception issues. At times, but his volume of yards and touchdowns this year is greatly exceeded what he did at Washington State.
Yeah, 14 in just this season alone. So let's go ahead and get to a key to the game from each one of you real quickly. Anthony, let's start with you. Key to the game for Oregon.
Well, first, don't let Aaron be your head coach. You'd have you fired up, but you pass out. So that's the number one thing. The second thing is Oregon has to be them. Just, don't beat yourself. Don't have these penalties that's going to hurt you. If you go in and take care of business, you will take care of business. And everybody's going to doubt you. Everybody's going to say, oh, well, this is the team that may jump up. We got history here going down to Tucson. No, you have some dudes on that football team that are better than those dudes. And if you play like it, they won't have a chance.
Joey?
Anthony said it. For me, it's penalties, right? Think about what we said after the first game. You have to fix your decision-making, Bo Nix. Fixed. Offense, you have to fix your red zone efficiency. Finish drives. Fixed. Last game, penalties. You had 9 penalties in the first half. That's got to go away. So if you get rid of that, you are going to potentially steamroll this Arizona team. If you don't, you're going to keep them in it. That's the key for me.
Finally, Aaron, one key for the Ducks in this one.
We want to take the IV. No, I'm kidding. Hey, I'm running the football all day. I'm trying to rush for 300 on this team. They allow 210 per game. I'm trying to just run the ball down their throat, keep their offense off the field, because you're going to give up yards. You're going to give up points, limit their possessions. Seriously, I mean, this team cannot stop the run very well. Your offensive line is just destroying right now. I'd shoot for 300 yards rushing and just kind of shorten this game a little bit.
All right, when we come back, we'll close up shop, give you our picks for Oregon at Arizona and which Duck needs to step up. We'll close things up when we come back on Talkin Ducks.
Abby's loves the Pacific Northwest so much, we named one of our favorite pizzas after it, the P&W Chicken Pizza, featuring loads of chicken, onion, country bacon, and Canadian bacon piled to the edge. Family-owned Abby's, a legendary pizza tradition.
The road can be a crazy place. Uh-oh! That's why Les Schwab Tires fixes brakes, steering, and more. And those guys don't. Keep driving. I'm just glad Les Schwab puts my safety first, so I can backseat drive with confidence.
Hit the road safely with Les Schwab and save up to $200 when you buy select tires with financing. Les Schwab Tires, celebrating 70 years of doing the right thing.
Par Lumber is committed to providing the best customer service. We provide personal service. We're problem solvers. We're positive and courteous. We're competent and professional. We are committed to delivering exceptional service every time. We're appreciative and we care. We are Par Lumber.
This is Abby and Bob. In 1964, these two high school pals started it all. Almost 60 years later, we still keep our word to the people of the Pacific Northwest to make the best pizza with the freshest ingredients. And that's a promise we will always keep.
Welcome back. Time now for our rock solid pick, brought to you by Milan Stoneworks, bringing you the finest stoneworks in the Northwest. And make sure you go check out Milan Stoneworks. Aaron Mayo, just one of the finest gentlemen you'll ever work with if you get a chance to head on down to their shop. All right, Oregon, a 13-point favorite on the road against Arizona. And Anthony, let's start with you. Give me a score prediction for this one, because the Ducks, they have been favored in their last handful of games, but we mentioned crazy things can happen down in the desert in some of these night games.
Anthony's afraid of numbers.
He said, give me a score prediction.
He's afraid of numbers, Jordan.
I forgot who I'm talking to. You don't give numbers.
I'll tell you what, Oregon's going to win big.
College.
They're going to win big, and here's the reason why. Because there's 5 guys. There's a group of guys that are very good, and that's the offensive line. And Aaron said this before, that Arizona can't stop anybody in the running game, and Oregon's going to run it down their throat. Those 5 guys will be the MVP of the game.
So I imagine the offensive line, as you mentioned, and as we said, Arizona giving up over 210 yards per game. They're going to win big, according to Anthony. Joey, you got any numbers for me by any chance? We're doing a pick. This is the segment where we make a pick on the game.
6, 19, 148, 2,962. Those are numbers, and I'm giving them to you.
How about a score for the game? Oregon's going to score how many points? Arizona's going to score how many points?
I'm going with, I think this is going to be one of those games. I'm going 45-24. I think that Oregon is going to control this game. And I think that Bennett Williams is going to be the guy who's going to be poised for a big breakout game, right? He's not only is, how do I say this? Anthony talked about it today in terms of his open field tackling. Last week I mentioned how he came up, charged at line of scrimmage, set the edge, turned the guy back inside. The guy is poised to make some plays in the backfield as well, in the defensive backfield. This is going to be his week. He's going to make a couple plays to keep Arizona out of the end zone. He's going to keep them out of the end zone early in the game to allow this game to really explode. And I think that we've established running backs are doing great, quarterbacks doing great, offensive line. This is the guy who I think can become the leader for this secondary and potentially a leader on this whole defense.
All right. Aaron, I know you're going to give me a nice little score prediction here, and then also give me your duck of the night for this upcoming game.
Look, Newman's got the O-line, creating all these holes at will.
Yeah,
My two dudes, Irving and Whittingham, are going to each run through those holes for over 100 yards.
Okay.
But Arizona's going to put up some numbers. They're going to put up some points. I think it's going to be at least an interesting game that you sort of feel like Oregon's going to win, and then they're going to win it 49-34.
Okay, I like it. I've got kind of Oregon the same thing. I'm going to go big actually here. I think Oregon goes big on the road. I'm going to go 52-34 Oregon. I think this is going to be a high-scoring contest between both these teams, especially when you get to the second half of this game here. But should be a fun one. Oregon a 13-point favorite over Arizona. Oregon trying to make it 5 wins in a row. The number 13 ranked Ducks will certainly have a potential test on the road against an Arizona team that is really playing without a lot of fear, and they are excited to possibly get the biggest win in most recent program history. From all of us here, thanks again for joining us on this edition of Talkin Ducks. To Aaron, Joey, Anthony, love you guys, appreciate it. We'll catch you guys next week. We recap Oregon's win against Arizona, and we take a bye week. We look back at the season at hand. All right, we'll see you guys next time.